Hello, it's Beach Camps Man and Jack from BAM, and in part 2 of this video, BAM Nuttall finds a historic pipe from the Brunel times. We take a look at the high cliffs they are working from. And an unknown brick face is discovered behind the sandstone cliffs. This is Phase 4 of Network Rail's Southwest Rail Resilience Programme, and following on from the new seawall at Dawlish and rockfall shelter at Parsons Tunnel. It's all part of a government-funded programme of ongoing work on the line between Dawlish and Teignmouth, helping reduce the disruption for passengers by affording the railway better protection from the cliffs and the sea. But before we start, please give this video a like, a share and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and my other YouTube channel for more content.
So CBU, this is class of CBU 19. There's no nettings either side of where the netting finishes and netting starts over there, and that's because the cliff hasn't got enough gradient on it to be of any concern to the railway environment.
Okay.
So the only thing that we have to do in CBU 19 is redivert this water back over this weir, which it should be running over.
Okay.
So we started the ground investigation works because we didn't actually know what was inside of here, and it was just filled with loose material. So the guys have excavated all that out then, and we've undertook some coring works on top of it. And what the coring works is to do is to allow the designer, it allows the designer to work out the depths of the foundations in this,
right,
and just ensure that the design solution proposed is still viable with the depth of the foundations, which is currently underneath the existing brickwork, because there was not a lot of historical information about this.
Right.
We think it was built back by Brunel, and you see the nozzle at the front there, that is actually perforated, and we don't know, there's a pipe which comes out underneath the front of it,
yeah,
which looks like it shot out straight out onto the railway, and we don't know whether it was used to fill up the water on the older trains.
Oh wow, it looks quite old, doesn't it?
Yeah. So we didn't actually know it was there, to be honest.
Okay.
And it would have made sense. That's why the water goes into that pit there.
Right.
Any leftover water goes over the top, and it acts as a sump to filter and clean the water that comes down. But yeah, that's just one theory behind it. We don't know if that's what it was or not.
Okay, so this water then goes under the railway and out to sea, does it?
Yeah, there's an outfall on the opposite side of the track there. So you can imagine the sort of catchment area that all the water this contains here from upstream, just because it is the natural ditch in between the two sides of CBU 18 and CBU 20. And it comes right the way down from up the top there.
Yes, from Holcombe Way, isn't it?
Yeah. So up this particular area, we are reprofiling the sides of the bank on both sides, and we're putting what's called a Reno or Reno mattress. Not quite sure how you pronounce it in here. And that's basically a mattress which is laid underneath the channel itself and has loads of stone in it to weigh it down, and it prevents erosion to the sides of the banks either side. Okay. So as you get bigger storms, you can see as it starts to erode the profile of this, and what we don't want to happen is an event like this again. Yeah. So we've got to do a bit of water management over here. Okay. All of this has to be agreed with Southwest Water. Yeah. And the land it has to be agreed with the council for the land drainage consent, not Southwest Water in this area.
Not quite as big as the brook diversion you had to do.
No. I don't ever want to have to do one of them again, to be honest with you. So yeah, the intention then would be to lower the brickwork. At the minute, there's not enough capacity for the amount of water which would overflow that section in there if we were to put it in at that level. You'd have one storm here and it'd burst the banks either side. So we've got to lower the brickwork down in here, which is what the proposed solution is, and then the water will shoot back off the end, the same as what it does as a bit of a natural waterfall at the moment. You can see on the floor here, this is where the guys have been undertaking the coring works. It gives them an understanding of what's through the brickwork as they drill down through it, whether there's concrete, whether it's all brickwork, different types of brickwork.
Oh wow.
And we do bigger samples on the right hand side there. Yeah. We do bigger samples on the right hand side there, and what that allows us to do is cut them down into smaller sections, and then we can send them off to a lab to test the compressive strength of the material. Okay. And that gives us some strength properties for the designer to work with in terms of the material that's in the weir then.
Cool.
So Harry's been supervising all the cans at the moment.
Well, Harry.
Harry's been doing all the engineering for cans on the cliff face. So bit of different in it, like Richie's normally do all air engineering over the opposite side. So we had our engineers, Harry and the other Harry, ironically, both rope access trained.
Okay, yeah, because Harry, you were on phase 2 over there as well, weren't you?
Yeah. I was on the seawall. So obviously it's a little bit different setting out as before. And before, like, you're landing pre-gas units, so dangling over a cliff that's like 60 metres up.
Yeah, he's a little bit scared to begin with, to be honest with you, weren't you?
It scares me watching you guys do it.
He texts me saying, I need to come back up out of this job's not for me anymore. I texted him, get back out there.
You're still here, mate.
Yeah. No, but he went from the bottom up first, because I think he was scared of the heights to begin with, weren't you?
Yeah, but if you go from the bottom up, like, you get used to all the equipment, and then I was all right.
Yeah.
And then about 1,416 hours later, we're nearly there.
That's good.
So this is the compound up at Morgan Sindles that we're at now, and this is what we're using. This is previous to the old Morgan Sindle compound, so you might have seen it on some of your videos before.
Yeah, to be fair, most of the footage we've done up here was for VIP, so if you're VIP, you'd have seen some of this behind the scenes. But yeah, this was where the rockfall shelter was built from, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. So this was their cliff top compound, and they did have another compound down the bottom for their welfare, but we've Morgan Sindles have stripped out and reinstated all that area down there. We've got a small area on the haul road as you come up, and then we've used this for our material storage area in our compound, just because we're not building a rockfall shelter, we're only doing the cliff solution, so we don't really need as much space. This whole platform that we're stood on now has been brought up from existing ground levels, probably about 10 or 15 metres.
Yeah.
And you can see it from the side elevation, really, as we were looking over from CBU 20.
Yeah.
All of the nails, all of the bars, again behind you, all of the nails, all of the bars, all of the grout, all of the lantern spaces, everything is brought into this compound area from our main compound. And the reason why we take it to the main compound first is just to manage materials distribution between 2 contractors, and we can work out who we've given what to and where materials have gone, just to ensure that the right number of bars have gone to the right number of CBUs. This here is actually the drilling rods which are on the rigs. This is a full set, well, a couple of sets of drilling rods here. The bit on the end here is what is used to bore the drill. So we're actually boring about 125 mils in diameter, and the bar that we're using is, I can't remember, it's 32 or 36 now, one or the other anyway.
Yeah.
And then all of these lines that you can see behind us here are hydraulic lines or air lines or compressor lines, whichever really. And then you've got our welfare and our offices for the engineering team and foreman team up here, which are managing and supervising the work area over the top of 18.
Okay, before we head over to CBU 18, please give this video a like, a share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Also, if you want to join our VIPs, click the join button below. It's not very much money a month. It's about the same as a pint in London, would you say?
Yeah, definitely.
And you get to see a lot more behind the scenes stuff.
To be honest.
Probably right. And there's more behind the scenes stuff there. Hopefully see you in there.
So as we're walking over the top of into CBU 18 now, we have our gateman who's supervising the movements in and out of here. That's because the actual site compound here and the work area at the opposite side that you can see over there is split between the south coast path. Yeah. So we put the blue hut in there, which is where we run all of our services underneath, the water supply and air feeds, etc., underneath the hut, and then that maintains access through the public right of way through here, which we have to keep open, or we have to get consent from the council to close. So on the right hand side, again, similar compressors to what Richie's are using over in their compound area, and that is feeding the air supply down onto the rigs, down around the back of the area, and there's another 2 compressors as you walk down the road there. This particular CBU is the highest one which we're working in, I think. Possibly 25 might also compete with it, but we haven't been over to 25 yet. So again, a grout tent setup on this side over here, pumping the grout to all the operatives working down on the cliff face. We've got the forklift in operation here, moving bars around the cliff.
Okay, so just to put things in perspective, the other side of there is where Morgan Sindles ended, is that right?
Morgan Sindles ended pretty much where that blue mat is on the floor over there. Okay. And then everything from there on is BAM's responsibility and CAM's responsibility for the nailing.
So that's where roughly where the rockfall shelter ends as well down there, is it?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. One thing that you'll notice about this CBU is you won't see any black protective matting other than on the end. And the reason for that is there was actually already a drapery system installed on this face. Right. So it's got an existing galvanised mesh, which is the same product which we saw in CBU 22 on this face, because there was slips here in the past. Okay. So there was a design solution implemented, I think it was about 10 years ago, where again the top third of this cliff is nailed with existing nails already, same as what was like in CBU 21, and then the lower 2/3 of the cliff have drapery netting already installed, so we don't have to put our black safety netting on like we did in the other CBUs.
Okie dokie.
So looking on this area of the floor here is probably a better example of because you can see it a lot more visibly up the crest here. But all of these wire ropes here are attached to what we call the crest access system. So there's a load of bars, these are only temporary bars at the top here, there's a load of bars drilled vertically, and there's a head block which you can see that grout around it there for the top metre I think it is, by 1/2 metre square at the top.
Yeah.
And that connects all of the cables which run through all the temporary anchors at the top here, which is where the rigs suspend off.
Okay.
So we have to have a temporary works design put in place for this. We have to test all the anchors and do pull-out tests on them and horizontal load testing on them to ensure that the nail or the wire rope won't break under the tension of the rigs once they're put on the face.
Okay.
So each crest access system, this is one crest access system as you come all the way along the top here. Each crest access system overlaps with another one because you can only have one rig working on each crest access system. So what that allows rigs to do is work past the extent of the end of it and cover a greater area with 2 rigs depending on how drilling activities are progressing in those different areas. And this extends, or these extend right the way down throughout this system here. Ritchies don't use the wire ropes like this system is set up here. They have a different temporary works where they just drill anchors and suspend off the anchors directly. Yeah. Whereas cans are using wire ropes between each of the anchors, and you can see them here with the bulldog clips every time you come past an anchor to clamp the wire ropes around the anchor plates and to the base of the cliff. So cans have completed all of the drilling work so far. In this CBU, there's about 1,560 nails to drill, and so far cans have drilled 1,200 of those nails up till yesterday. So they're about 80% complete here. So crest access system 1 through to 3 is complete, and they're now working on finishing crest access systems 4 to 9. They have 9 crest access systems in total along this length of the cliff. I think in total there's about 120 metres in linear length of crest access systems. So we've got another grout tent set up on the left. We've got another grout tent set up on the left-hand side with the fuel cubes here then, and this is to this is for the airlines here to get pressure, build up pressure back into the airlines, just because the compressors are situated so far away along the whole road in this area here. So you pump air in the one side, builds the pressure back up and pumps air out the other side. The bars are laid out in between the stop blocks. The stop blocks are required along this CBU just because of how close we're working with. We're planned to the opposite side here, and the stop blocks are also installed up at the other CBUs as well.
And that's these on the floor, is it?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and they're just a measure of preventing plant from driving off the haul road. Okay. And then obviously the gradient of this haul road is a gradient of
into the track.
It's a gradient of concern as well. Yeah, so we can only use certain items of plant down here because plants have a maximum gradient that the piece of plant can work on. When I refer to plant, I mean excavators, forklifts, etc. So there's only certain items of plant which can actually come down this haul road. Otherwise, you probably won't get them back up, to be honest. No. So cans, I've got a drilling team down at the bottom of this section now. The guys are just working on passing the bars down to the team below. So that, again, he's going to put all the ropes in the rope bag, which you can see here. So he's just working on putting the bags into the rope bag. They'll pull that over to the edge of the cliff then, and then they'll be lowered down to the team, and then the grouting operations will start once the bar's fully installed. You can see over the opposite side now, CBU 20, and that is the furthest extent either side on where CBU 20 goes down to. And then you've got Shell Cove Beach, and then you've got the huts in the background, which is Corriton Cove, and then obviously everyone's felt
So over the tunnel where we're looking now, that's where we were stood in part 1, wasn't it? Looking down over to here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because this is all new territory as well. Like no one's been able to access here before, have they?
No.
Footpath there, southwest
before. So beyond up to where the edge of the footpath is, the green fencing on that side over there. All of this was just overgrown before we started. You can see all the roots sticking up over here of all the trees and the brambles that were here. So before we undertake any de-veg works, we plan the de-veg works out of bird nesting season, and then as we're undertaking the de-veg works, we work with an ecologist to check everything before, and then the ecologist identifies any areas of concerns, and then you either put an exclusion zone around it, or you come back at a later date and time to carry out the de-veg. So we do have maximum wind speeds that the guys can work with on the cliff face.
Okay.
Obviously it's down to the level 3 ultimately to determine the safety, but we do have maximum wind speeds that the guys are allowed to work in. And normally, to be honest with you, they come off a little bit before then if we know that the weather is going to go that way, just because we don't want people out there in absolute gales, and
Yeah.
especially
Well,
when
you just need one gust, don't you? It's different game altogether.
Yeah. So in terms of the guys working on the face, they're always on 2 rope access systems. So they've always got 2 lines. So they've always got 2 lines rigged up. So the lines which you can see running down the cliff over here, there'll be one guy clipped onto those 2 lines.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is should anything ever accidentally happen to the one line, there's also a backup line always with you, and that's part of the IRATA process. And IRATA is the competency or the training and the course that you need to undertake to be able to do rope access works as part of your job.
Okay. Cool.
So as we come down this steep section of Hall Road now, we've got one of the drilling rigs which is at the top at the moment.
Yeah, this is steep, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is very steep.
Yeah. So we've got the excavator working down here at the moment, and the rig, the drilling rig is actually attached onto the excavator at this point because of the crest access system. And what that's doing is dropping the nails in at the top, just because we've got nothing to suspend this rig off here at the moment. So the excavator operator, he takes the control functions off while the guys are working with this, and then just moves the rig into position over the top of the nail, and then drills. The drillers then drill the nail down. The rigs themselves have got safety nets on the sides of them, so as the guys are working and undertaking the drilling works, if they drop any of their tools or materials, which, like I say, are always tethered to them anyway, the safety net acts as another control measure.
So that's on its side at the minute, is it? When it's over the cliff?
It will hang. The net will hang down.
So
yeah.
That pointing up is the bottom. Okay.
Yeah. So they move around by the tyres at the back of the rig.
Yeah.
The tyres can be changed in angle depending on whether you're going horizontally or vertically up the face. And then the thing that you can see on the side with like all the 6 bars is to drop the driller's rods onto it as he's doing the drilling work.
Oh, okay.
So they sit on there and don't fall out. You can see the guy turfing the rig now, which is moving the rig in position, lowering it down or tightening it up depending on where it needs to go.
Right, so that's those CBUs. Where are we heading to now, Jack?
Yeah, so that's we covered CBU 18 there. You can drive up to the Morgan Sindel compound, but we took the walking route.
Didn't we? Yeah. And yes,
we
my
got
legs. No, we walked.
Is it Windward Lane? That's where the entrance to the Morgan Sindel compound.
Yeah.
Well, we call it the Morgan Sindel compound, but it's actually our compound now. Morgan Sindels have been gone a long time.
So we go to Lee Mount now.
Yeah, Lee Mount. So we got that entrance on Windward Lane covers CBU 18. The compound where we were just in, that covers CBU 19 through to CBU 23, once we've got the temporary land access agreement sorted. And then we run CBU 24 to CBU 26 out of the compound in Lee Mount. So this is the furthest extent back down into Dawlish of our work area, and we'll come back in from the opposite way here. So we're going to walk through now CBU 26, 25 and 24. The CBU that you can see in front of me is CBU 26.
And this is the last one, isn't it?
Last one, yeah, just over Kenaway Tunnel and directly adjacent to the bridge here. So all of this land belongs to the council in this section, so we have to get agreement from the council and permission from the council. We don't need planning permission for this design solution like we did on the seawall, but we do need permission in terms of the easements for putting the nails onto the property, and then you have to work out with the local authority who is going to maintain what. So Network Rail are responsible for the maintenance of the actual asset itself, as in the nails and the netting, and the council are responsible for the vegetation and managing the vegetation, which we'll go back through on this cliff face. Okay. We had an agreement with Natural England to get the triple SI assent that the vegetation, once it reaches a certain amount of growth, has to be trimmed back so that the geological features are re-exposed on the cliff face, because that's what's protected.
Okay.
So you can see here, the guys are undertaking the last section of the drilling in CBU 26. They're working on top of the temporary netting at the moment, and we've got a team of 2 drilling, and we've got the other team passing the bars down to the guys and lowering the bars down to the guys. You can see underneath now, you've got the drilling operations being undertaken. So the guy is bringing back out the drill rods, and the safety cage is on top of the mast coming in and out. That attaches back onto the next rod, and they'll pull the rods back out then, and then they'll put the bars into the hole once separation's completed. So again, you can see the rods coming back out of the hole here. He'll stop drilling. He'll lock off the front, so it stops the bar from turning.
Yeah.
And then he'll undo his safety cage to allow him to remove the drill rod, and then the process will be repeated to retract the rods from outside of the hole. If we just move around this way, we'll get a bit of a better view. We don't actually, just in this particular area here, we don't need PPE because we've got the public footpath closed down in that section over there, and we're on the open section of the footpath, which is still open at the moment to the public. So you can see what I mean about the temporary netting. It does rip in places, so the guys have to be on top of the maintenance of. Once this area has been completed, that temporary netting will all be taken off, and then the finished product will look like the left-hand side of this area over there. So we're planning on reopening this footpath at the bottom, and allowing access back up to Lee Mount by the end of March, hopefully. Okay. Should just make sure that we don't encounter any problems with the drilling rig. You know, they get a right hammer and drilling all day long, so regular maintenance on the drills is always required. Okay. Just to keep the rigs running smoothly and operating smoothly.
How often's the maintenance on the rig?
As and when required, and they have daily checks that they've got to undertake. Yeah. So you can see the tyres on this rig, they're turned horizontally. He's drilling the nails left to right. Okay. And the yellow targets which are on the netting are the nail locations. Okay. So when Harry was talking about setting out earlier, witches will set out their own nails, mark the position of the nail on the temporary netting, and it gives the drilling teams on the slope a reference location for the length of nail that they need to install. Yeah. I think Richie's, because they've got so many varied length and nails, use a different coloured coded tag for a different length nail. Okay. So as the driller comes down and he goes through each nail, he knows the length of the nail that he needs to drill. Right. And then he or she, we have got a couple of women drillers as well. Yeah. So when the driller has completed the bore, they will complete a driller's log. It'll tell from a quality point of view, it will help us understand the feedback from the driller on how the ground has been, the ground conditions of that particular bore. So they can determine how hard the ground is based on how the bore drills itself. We take grout samples from every batch of grout which is grouted, we send them off to a lab then, and they crush the cube to determine the compressive strength of the grout. Right. And what we have in our specification as we're building this, building and designing this, is a minimum grout strength for that particular grout at 28 days. So the grout doesn't instantly set. No. Products like concrete and grouts and stuff take time to cure and get to their, it's a bit wet over there, isn't it? Take time to get to their design strength, and we measure everything at 28 days. So in this particular case, the grout needs to achieve 40 newtons of compressive strength per millimetre squared after 28 days. If the grout cubes don't achieve that by 28, we always take spare samples and crush them at 56 days. Okay. But it's very rare. I think we've only had that on a batch of 7 so far out of nearly 3,000 nails that we've drilled. So I think in total we're about 60–65% complete with all of the nailing programme to date. And then we've still got the weir works to undertake as part of our civils package. And then we've got the catch fence, which we're going to be installing this weekend actually. So I think you're coming out to do a bit of filming, aren't you? Yeah. So as we come around into this particular area now, we're still on Corriton Cove Beach. We've got 2 CBUs in this area. We've got CBU 24, which is where the tunnel portal is in the background. And it's just that little lump of material which has had the vegetation removed off, ready for this weekend.
To the right of the tunnel?
To the right of the tunnel, yeah. So we're going to be, the nails in there are predominantly 4, 5, 6 metres. Okay. Because if you drill in any further, you'll come out the other side of the footpath on the opposite side. So they're very small nails in there compared to the rest of the job. About 70 nails in total, and we're planning on completing those this weekend in the abnormal access and in the midweek nights next week. So that should pretty much wrap up that area nicely. Okay. This here
I've never seen that brickwork
CBU
before.
25. Nobody's ever seen that brickwork before. Wow. So That's causing us a bit of headache at the moment, to be honest with you.
Thought it might.
Because, as you can imagine, we can't drill the nails through the brickwork as it is. So where the guys stood on that section of brickwork or stonework over there at the moment, we were only aware of that band of material, and we only thought, we only assumed that band of material was about 2 metres in height.
Yeah.
And that would have worked without the spacings of our nails, because we put the nails every 2 metres and we're allowed 300 mil of tolerance. So we could have put a nail either side of it. And the original design solution for that was to put a nail either side of it and then almost strap all of that stonework in between the 2 nails using wire ropes on like a diagonal grid, like a zigzag grid.
Because if that comes down, that'd be a nightmare, wouldn't
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, it's up there with Stonehenge, that one is. I don't know how it was put there.
Wow. Wow, yeah.
So,
quite impressive.
Yeah. So, on the 3 sections of wall that you can see on the right hand side, then we weren't aware about any of those. And if you can imagine the guy up there on the left hand side, he's probably about 2 metres in height roughly.
Yeah.
That wall there is probably 3 or 4 metres in height, and in this section on the right hand side over here is probably 10 to 12 metres in height. It just really doesn't work without the grid space. And
no.
So we've had our designer come out. This has been uncovered over the last 2 weeks really, and we've had our designer come out. And the designer has been working with our engineer today on the slope to do some investigation work as to, is there any foundations there? We're probably going to have to do some sample cores like we did through the weir work up there, through this CBU, to determine what is actually behind it and what the purpose of it is. Nobody knows why it was put there.
Yeah.
I think that's actually Harry on the left-hand side doing the engineering.
Okay.
They're surveying the extent of the dentition so it can be mapped on a design model.
Yeah.
And then we can see what nails have been impacted by this. In the gully section in the middle of these CBUs as well, there is a flume which runs all the way down, and there's also just up above where the guy on the right-hand side of this section is stood, there's an outlet which comes underneath the road which we weren't aware of.
Okay.
A potential drainage outlet, we've put the camera up and it's collapsed inside.
Okay. Well,
and then
creating yourself more work, or it's creating more work for you.
Yeah. It's just understanding how it impacts the design really. So designers are working on this, and then more than likely the solution for this will be probably to core through in each of the where each of the design nail positions are over here.
Yeah.
Would be to core through the existing brickwork first, and then put the rig over the top of it and drill it. But if we find voiding at the top of this wall, there is potential when the guy has flushed the bore.
Yeah.
So when I say flush the bore, they put air into the bore to get all the kind of driller risings out of there to clean it ready for grouting. When they flush the bore, there is potential that brickwork could burst outwards.
Okay.
So we need to do a bit more GI in here to understand what we're working with.
Yeah.
The guys which are down below here, and the one up on top of the tunnel portal there, and up on the ropes on the right hand side, at the moment they're currently removing the temporary meshing.
Yeah.
So the temporary meshing needs to be removed in this CBU before we start the permanent meshing.
Okay.
And that was one of the requirements from from Natural England. You can see that as he's undertaking the work here, no one is stood beneath him.
Yeah.
Just because as they do take the temporary meshing off, there is potential for some of the material which is contained within the netting to fall down, or any loose material on top.
Yeah.
And as soon as they've removed that, then they will begin the permanent meshing operation on this cliff face.
Right then, Jack. Well, that was an incredible, very lengthy tour, which is why we've split this video into many parts. Thank you so much for taking us around, and hopefully the viewers have seen sort of the tasks and the work you have to do.
Yeah. Well, like I say, it's a completely different project to what we were doing on the seawall. So
Totally.
yeah. Getting to grips with it initially is a bit of a different challenge, because obviously we've just come off a big civils project on there, and now we're undertaking work which you can't really see unless you're on the ropes really now.
Well, like you say, Harry had to get trained up to be on the ropes, so he didn't like heights, so fair play to him.
Yeah.
After all the years on there, he's dangling from a rope. Anyway, if you like this video, give it a like, a subscribe and a share. And if you really like what we do and want to see some behind the scenes stuff, you can hit the join button on YouTube or become a VIP on the website. And at the minute, we've got our 10th anniversary sale on. And come and chat to Jack in the VIP area. So hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thanks again.
Thanks for watching.
We're currently working on a full-length documentary about the whole build of the seawall. So if you want to see that, make sure you're subscribed.